Hello students, hope you all are doing good. I am here to handle subject of business laws and business communication for CMA Foundation students. So myself Abhishek Ahuja, I am a BCom LLB graduate. I have done my law from Bangalore and as well as I am a CS aspirant. So I'll be handling the subject of business laws and business communication for you, as I have a strong background in the law subjects in the law field. I have done my BCom LLB as well as I have done various practical internships where I got to know the practicality of law. So about this subject, I'll give you a brief introduction about the subject first. So talking about the subject, the business laws and business communication subject, the subject is very easy, very general and very interesting. So for you guys, there's nothing to worry. I am here. I'll be teaching you in a proper way by giving proper examples, proper illustrations wherever is required. And so talking about the syllabus structure. So the syllabus structure, it has two sections, section A and section B. So if I'll talk about section A, so section A, it consists of introduction. Introduction is only, in introduction it covers, the weightage is 10%, where it will be giving an introduction about law, how the Indian courts works, what was the difference between Indian courts and British courts, how the Indian courts came into force, and what is legislation, what does that mean. Everything will be coming in introduction, and introduction carries a weightage of 10%, that means 10 marks out of 80. Your section A consists of 80 marks and section B, it consists of 20 marks. So accordingly, out of that 80, introduction consists of only 10 marks. Next is Indian Contract Act. It carries weightage of 30%, and that is the most important chapter in this section A. And the Contract Act is something which will be useful for every one of us in the coming future or wherever. It is not that you are studying this contract act only for your foundation thing. Even after foundation level, if you'll go for inter level also, that also, there also you will find Indian Contract Act. But the difference is, here whatever you are studying in the Indian Contract Act, that is only the basics. Afterwards, if you'll go into inter, final, you will find in-depth knowledge about it. But here also you will be able to know, and as this is a MCQ paper, this is an objective type paper, so it is nothing to worry. Everything is easy. You just have to concentrate a little. Whatever I am teaching, listen to it properly and then revise it. Everything will be nice. No, nothing to worry. Then comes the Sale of Goods Act. It also comprises of 20 marks. And next is the Negotiable Instruments Act. And even I have seen your syllabus question paper pattern also. It will be of 100 marks paper, and there will be 50 questions, and one question will be of 2 marks each, whereas there will be no negative marking. So nothing to worry. You can attempt every question, and even if you'll study, if you read with me, I can assure you that you guys can have maximum marks and you guys can score really good in this exam. As this exam is very easy exam, you just have to concentrate a little. You just have to revise. We'll revise every portions of it. After every chapter, there is an exercise given in the last of the book, in the last of the chapter, where there will be some MCQs. We'll revising that. Other than that, we'll be also doing some various other MCQs that I'll be giving you for practice. So there is nothing to worry. Next, if I'll start, I'll just give an introduction of what was the contents in the syllabus. So as I told you, the module 1. So module 1, chapter 1, it talks about introduction. So introduction, there will be what are the sources of law, legislative process in India, what is the legislative process in India, and what are the legal methods and court system in India, and the primary and subordinate legislation. All these things will be teaching, I'll be covering in my class. So nothing to worry. Next comes the Indian Contract Act. So under Indian Contract Act, there are various subtopics. All these topics are important for us because it consists of 30 marks. Indian Contract Act is for 30 marks, as you all know. So out of this, all these topics will cover what are the essential conditions of a contract, essential elements of a contract, what are the different type of contracts, plus what is acceptance, what is offer, everything we will be covering in depth. Plus I'll be giving various illustrations at every point, so that you can understand the concept easily for your reference. Next comes the Sale of Goods Act. So Sale of Goods Act, it is 20 marks portions for us. That is also important. So we cannot leave anything, because this portion, the syllabus is very less. It is not a huge syllabus. It is not a rocket science to complete it. You can revise, you can complete the syllabus, and even you can revise it 3 to 4 times. This much time you have, because only I think in the part A, in the section A, there are only 4 chapters. Yeah, part A talks about only 4 chapters, and part B there is only 1 chapter that is related to business communication. So it is nothing to worry. Sale of Goods Act, we will be studying about various conditions when one person sells goods to other person, what various laws emerge between all that things. So for that we will be talking about in your module 3. After that, module 4, it talks about Negotiable Instrument Act, that is also 20 marks. Okay, so Negotiable Instrument Act, it talks about characteristics of negotiable instruments, which all instruments are characterized, are called as negotiable instruments, and difference between negotiable instrument, what all instruments are negotiable instruments, plus how a dishonor of checks takes place, what are the remedies for it, what is crossing, all these things we'll be covering in this chapter. Next, that is section B, that is business communication, and that is module 5. It is also 20 marks for us. And sorry, I forgot, here this is 10 marks. So your introduction chapter, it is of 10 marks, then Contract Act 30 marks, the Sale of Goods Act 20 marks, and then the last one is Negotiable Instruments Act is also 20 marks. And the business communication part, here we'll be referring to various things such as what is the process of communication when we are into a business, when we are a business entity, how do we have to communicate with the other entities, with the other stakeholders, and what are the do's, what are the don'ts, what things we can do, what are the things we should not do. All these things will be covering in business communication part, that is module 5 section B. So guys, today this is section A. Now introduction chapter. So as a first class, I'll be starting with chapter 2, that is not the sources of law. This chapter we'll do later. First I'll start with, one second, yeah. So this is Indian Contract Act 1872. So as a start, I will be starting with Indian Contract Act. So because Indian Contract Act, I feel it is an interesting chapter for a start, and it is also important. It carries a weightage of 30 marks. And the first chapter, that was Introduction of Law, Sources of Law, that chapter is a little raw chapter. Like there are things in that chapter that you have to by heart, but it is not the case in the Indian Contract Act. Everything has a technicality. You have to really understand according to the sections. In Indian Contract Act, there will be various sections. So, and everything is based on sections. Whatever the rules, regulations we have to follow, that is based on the sections. It is nothing that simply we have to by heart it. You just have to read it, understand it, and then apply it. Only that thing. So today we will be starting with Indian Contract Act, and mostly in this session, in today's session, we will be covering module 2.1 and 2.2, that talks about essential elements, types of contract, offer and acceptance. These all things are very important, and in between, while I am teaching, I'll be giving you guys important topics and important points which you need to write it down, so that it will be easy for you in the future to clear exams. And void and voidable agreements, and no consideration, no contract. What is this principle, no consideration, no contract? I'll be teaching in detail. So mostly I'll be covering these two topics in detail for the today's class. So now I'll start. These are the learning objectives. It says that what all, after reading this chapter, what all the students will be able to know about. So after reading the chapter, you will be able to know about the essential elements of a contract, what all are the essential elements of a contract, what is the difference between a void and avoidable agreement, what are the importance of consideration, what is the consideration in a contract, how the consideration is relevant. All these things you will be able to know about. Next comes is what is the parties, who all are the parties, what is the capacity of parties, and importance of free consent, how the concept of free consent works here. Next comes the meaning of important terms, indemnity, guarantee. These all are the special types of contract. It will all, the special types of contracts are also covered in your syllabus, but we'll start with the introduction, basic of offer, acceptance, everything will come. These special type of contracts like indemnity, guarantee, bailment, pledge, all these things will be covered in the later modules. Then comes the meaning of performance of contract. What is the performance of contract, how a performance be executed, what all principles are there, I'll be covering all that. Next, what are e-contracts and e-signatures? Appreciate, just we have to appreciate the meaning and requirement. So in nowadays world, e-contracts are very reliable, as many of the big corporate firms, they are entering into e-contracts, they are exchanging the offer acceptance to e-contracts basis. So that is also we'll be covering about. And next, what are the various modes of discharging the contracts. So what are the various modes of discharging the contract means that how can you discharge a contract, how a contract can be executed. So all these things also will be covered in this chapter. Next comes the what are the rules about the breach of contract and remedies, how one particular contract can be called as a breach, and what are the various remedies for it. So all these things we'll be covering easily, no problem. So module 2.1, it talks about essential elements of a contract, types of contract, and acceptance. So if you read the introduction part, there is nothing, even you can read, but I'll be explaining you everything from this chapter. So the world of commerce as is based on reciprocal act or considerations. Along with these acts, the law governing these commercial activities revolves around rights and liabilities. So this is telling that there are commercial acts and it revolves around rights and liabilities. For every act, for every one act, there will be rights and liabilities. If two persons are entering into a contract, there will be rights and liabilities for both the persons individually, specifically. So the Indian Contract Act 1872 prescribes the law relating to contracts in India. So the Indian Contract Act is enforceable only in India. It governs the law how to enter into a contract in India. That is the first main point for the consideration here. Next comes, it is based on the principles of English common law and is applicable to all states of India. So now you guys get to know that from where we got the principles of our Indian Contract Act. It is from the English system of law, plus it is applicable to all the states in India. So the Indian Contract Act 1872, it is applicable to all the states in India. Next comes, before enactment of Indian Contract Act, the courts in India used to apply English common laws as suited to the Indian conditions. Earlier, when the Indian Contract Act was not into force, was not into picture, so what the Indian courts were doing is they were applying the English common laws which were suited to Indian conditions. So there were various English laws. If they are suiting to Indian conditions, the Indian courts were used to apply to that English laws, customs and usages. So some difficulties were noticed in English common laws. Accordingly, later the courts started deciding cases based on Hindu personal laws and Muslim personal laws. So after that, what happened is there were some difficulties which were faced by the Indian courts in applying the English laws. So after that, what happened is they started taking decisions on the basis of Hindu personal laws and Muslim personal laws. So Hindu, they have their governing laws, as well as Muslim people, they also have their governing laws. So the court started deciding cases on the basis of that. After that, what happened? But the same were still not found fit to address the business complexities. Even if the court starting applying all those decisions, but they were not fit to what we can say is to address the business complexities, because business complexities, how can you solve by personal laws? That is not sufficient. So there was a need for one act. So after that, accordingly, the Indian Contract Act 1872 was framed. This act is based on English common law, which is to a large extent made up by judicial precedents. So this act is based on English common law. It is derived from, it is based on English common law. Most of the principles in the Indian Contract Act are taken from an English common law, plus it is to a large extent made up of judicial precedents. Judicial precedents are the already decided judgments of the courts. So if a question comes like what is judicial precedents, judicial precedents are the binding precedents, and these are the precedents which are already decided by the common law courts in India. So this all was the brief history of why Indian Contract and how Indian Contract Act came into picture. So in some 10 seconds I'll revise everything again. So how Indian Contract Act came into picture: earlier the British courts used to follow English common law system. They were used to apply English common law system into Indian situations. After that, what happened? It was not proper for them to apply English common law system into Indian courts because they were not able to address the English common law practices. They were not able to address all the queries. Then they started applying Hindu personal rights and Muslim personal laws for the courts on the basis of the principle. After that, what happened? Even that Muslim personal laws and Hindu personal laws, they were not able to address the business complexities. That is the reason this Indian Contract Act of 1872 came into picture. So this was the brief introduction about the history of the Indian Contract Act and what was there prevalent before the Indian Contract Act came into picture. So if a question comes like that, before Indian Contract Act, what were the laws that were prevalent to guide the principles of contract in India, or what were the principles which the courts used to follow in India? So what was that is, first is English common law principles, English common laws. It was English, one second, I will not be able to write it here. So it was English common laws to the first extent, and then comes the Hindu personal laws, and Muslim personal laws. See, and later on, what came into picture? Indian Contract Act. So this is the hierarchy. First, the courts used to rely upon English common laws. Then they were putting reliance on Hindu personal laws and Muslim personal laws. These all personal laws they used to apply on the situations, and they used to decide the particular case. After that, but still it was not suited to the business complexities. Then the Indian Contract Act came into force. Understood? Yeah, I hope it is clear. And now talking about the other things. See, so the law relating to contract in India is contained in the Indian Contract Act. The act is originally enacted, is divided into 4 parts. So these are the 4 parts of the act which is originally enacted. That means that the act which was enacted in 1872. After that, there are so many amendments made to the act, but this is the original act which came into force in 1872. So it consists of section 1 to 75 of this act. It talks about law relating to general principles of contract. What are the general principles governing a contract? It section 1 to 75 used to talk about that. Then comes the law relating to sale of goods. Law relating to sale of goods. Section 76 to 23 used to talk about what is the law relating to sale of goods. But now later on it got repealed because the Sale of the Goods Act 1930 came into picture. The Sale of the Goods Act 1930 originated. After that it got repealed from the Contract Act. Now Indian Contract Act does not include law relating to sale of goods. Now the law relating to sale of goods is covered under Sale of Goods Act 1930. Next is law relating to special contracts. As I have told you now earlier that what are the special contract, bailment, pledge, indemnity, guarantee, all that are governed under section 124 to 238, that are special contracts. Next is law relating to partnership business. This has also got repealed because 1932 Partnership Act came into picture and it got repealed. So this is the basics content of the Indian Contract Act which was there originally. Now the contents of the Indian Contract Act are not the same because this 2 and this 4 is got repealed because they have their separate act. So now this was all the introduction of the Indian Contract Act plus your introduction of your subjects. Now we are going to start the main topic of our definition of contract. Okay, so if you'll go through the section 2H of the act, it defines the term contract. So the section 2H of the this thing of your act, it defines the term contract as an agreement between 2 or more parties enforceable by law. So I'll be telling you each and every sentence and meaning of every point here. So please listen carefully. Section 2H of the Act defines the term contract as an agreement between 2 or more parties enforceable by law. So if there is an agreement between A and B, and then that agreement should be enforceable by law, it will be called as contract. So now we can say that, okay, we'll read the definition of agreement also, then we'll make a conclusion. An agreement and its enforceability are 2 essential components of a contract. So what are the 2 essential components of a contract? Is a contract should be an agreement plus it should be enforceable. It should be a legally enforceable. If either of these 2 is missing, if any one of 2, either of 2, it's saying that either of 2, if it is only agreement and it is not legally enforceable, then also it is not be called as contract. Both of the 2 should be present. If either of 2 is missing and there is no contract. If either of the 2 is missing, there will be no contract. We cannot say that particular agreement to be a contract. An agreement has been defined in section 2E. So for your exam purposes, you need to remember all these things. Where the term contract is defined under which section? Section 2H. Where the term agreement is defined? Section 2E. So what is an agreement? Every promise and every set of promises forming consideration for each other. So agreement is promise or any promises which set to form consideration for each other. So if a person A, suppose, is promising a person B, saying that I'll be giving you this certain goods in this consideration. See, A and B are friends. Okay, A is telling B that I want to sell my bicycle. If you want to buy it, I can sell you in some 5,000 rupees. So here is the consideration is 5,000. Okay, consideration amount is 5,000. Now A, who is the owner of the bicycle, wants to sell bicycle to B. Now if there is, this is called as contract. Why? There is a promise which is made by A, promise made by A plus consideration, and it is legally enforceable because the purpose for which the agreement or the contract is executed between them, it is a legal lawful purpose. It is not that they are not doing any fraud activity. Simply one person is selling his bicycle to the other person, that is a lawful consideration. Lawful consideration means, and the consideration amount is also 5,000, so there is nothing to worry. So this is I'll be explaining you in more detail. for your understanding. One second, we'll read it first, then we'll explain it. Okay. So according to the term of a contract, so what is contract is? Contract is basically agreement and enforceability. Understood? So this is the meaning of contract. Every contract, if there is an agreement is defined in section 2e, which talks about any promise made by one party or any promise, any set of promises which are forming part of consideration will be called as agreement. So if there is an agreement between the parties and that agreement is enforceable, that will automatically be called as a contract. I think this much is clear. After that, section 2b talks about when a person to whom the proposal is made, when a person to whom the proposal is made signifies his assent thereto, the proposal is said to be accepted, and the proposal when accepted becomes a contract. So section 2b talks about when the person, see, now when the person to whom a proposal is made signifies his assent thereto, I'll explain with the illustration. The proposal is said to be accepted, and the proposal when accepted becomes a contract. Okay, see here now, if I'll talk about, see, a person wants to sell his bicycle to person B. This person has given an offer to B that I want to sell my bicycle 5,000 amount. Consideration is 5,000. Okay. Oh, sorry. See, yeah, look here guys. Person A gives an offer to person B for bicycle of rupees 5,000. Now, what is this term saying is that when a person to whom the proposal is made, so here the proposal is made to B, proposal made by A. When a proposal, when the person to whom the proposal is made, it signifies his assent. Now A has told to B that I want to sell my bicycle. Now if B is saying that okay, he has given his assent. Assent means he has accepted the offer. Now he has accepted the offer and he is ready to pay 5,000 to him. If he is ready to pay 5,000 to him, proposal, now the proposal is getting accepted. Whatever the proposal A has given to B, now if B has accepted the proposal, then it will be called as a contract for a consideration. Understood? Now see, when the person to whom the proposal is made signifies his assent thereto, the proposal is said to be accepted, and a proposal when accepted, only the proposal when accepted, it will be called as a contract. The essence of an agreement, or in turn, contract, is meeting of minds of the parties. Contract is called as the meeting of mind of the parties. The parties to an agreement must have agreed upon the subject in the same sense. It is not that there are two parties, but one party has thinking that subject is different. For one party, a subject is different. I will be giving an illustration for this also. So it is not that one party is thinking that this is the subject, this is other party, for other party the subject is something else. Then there is no meeting of minds. There should be meeting of minds if two parties are entering into a contract. Otherwise, it will be not called as a contract. unless there is consensus ad idem. This consensus ad idem means meeting of minds. Even write this, note it down for your reference, and even it can be asked as an MCQ question. What does the term consensus ad idem means? It means meeting of minds. There cannot be any contract. So this what this line signifies is, if there is no meeting of minds, there will be no contract. Okay, there is one example, beautiful example. A had two motor cars, Maruti Alto and Maruti 800. So there is a person named A. He has two cars, Maruti Alto and Maruti 800. Okay, he intends to sell Maruti 800 to B. So which car he intends to sell is Maruti 800 to B. Okay, but B thought he is selling Maruti Alto. So there is no meeting of minds in this. One person is thinking, one person he wants to sell Maruti 800, but the person who wants to buy, he is thinking that this person is selling Maruti Alto, and he agreed on a proposal to buy Maruti Alto. Okay, since there is no meeting of mind, both understood the same transaction differently, because both of them, they have understood one same transaction as differently. Because if they want to do a transaction to sell both of the cars, there should be two agreements, two contracts. But for the single transaction, one is thinking that, one is thinking something other. So there is no consensus ad idem, there is no meeting of minds. That is why there is no consent, thus there is no contract. There is no consent, because in this there is no consent, because he has not signifies the contents of the subject of the contract specifically. He has not told him that I want to sell this car, and due to that what happened is, he thought he might has come to sell different car, and he thought he is selling Alto, but no, he was ready to buy 800. That what happened. So what you have learned from this is, there should be consensus ad idem. There should be meeting of minds, proper meeting of minds should be there in order to enter into a contract. Now, will all agreements give rise to a contract? This is an important thing. As we learned that contract, what are the two important elements of a contract is agreement plus enforceability. So now the question is, will all the agreements will be called as a contract? See, will all agreements give rise to a contract? So for this, we'll read, an agreement to become a contract must give rise to legal obligation. There should be a legal obligation assigned to it. If we want to call an agreement a contract, there must be a legal obligation assigned to it. Agreement can be social obligation or legal obligation. Agreement can be social obligation also. Up to two persons can also enter into an agreement, or they can promise each other that this is a social obligation. I will be performing this obligation, so it is an agreement. Then there must be a consideration for it. Two persons are entering into that. Okay, this is a social obligation. I will perform this. One person is promising the other person. It automatically becomes agreement. So agreement can be either social obligation or legal obligation. An agreement giving rise to social obligation is not a contract. See, agreement which is giving rise to a social obligation is not a contract, because in social obligation there will be no consideration involved. If an agreement, all the agreements which give rise to legal obligation plus there is a consideration attached to it, that all agreements will be called as contracts. That is why it is said that the term agreement is a wide term. It includes both social and legal obligations, but only those agreements which the parties intend to enforce legally culminates into contract. See, they are telling that agreement is a wide term. Agreement includes both. If an MCQ question comes, does agreement includes both social and legal obligations? Yes, agreement includes both social obligations as well as legal obligations. But whether the social obligations are considered as contract or not, no. The answer to this is no. Social obligations will not be considered as a contract. Only the legal obligations which give rise to a legal liability, where there is a consideration is involved, that all things will be considered as contract. So now you guys able to know that. So see also, an agreement is regarded as a contract when it is enforceable by law. So when an agreement is considered or regarded as a contract is when it is enforceable by law. When the term enforceable by law means that there is a legal remedy for it. It is not against the regulations of law. It comes within the purview of law. Whatever law suggests, whatever is good from the view of eyes of the law, that is the enforceable by law. Enforceable by law basically means that if A and B entered, suppose A and B entered into a contract for sale of some goods. Thereafter, A entered into a contract. A told that I'll be selling goods to you for a consideration of 10,000. B accepted the offer. B told, okay, I'll be paying you 10,000 and I'll be taking the goods from you. Now, suppose if A has took the money of 10,000 from B but has not given him the goods, has not passed the goods, then now what is the remedy for B now? B can go to the court and file a suit on A. That means this is the contract which is enforceable by law. Enforceable law, that means remedy is in the law. Remedy will be governed by law. In Indian courts, there is a remedy for all these kinds of contracts. That is the main thing. Legal obligations arise to make an agreement, a contract. How an agreement can become a contract is by the legal obligations. It means that an agreement must give rise to legal obligations. Agreement should give rise to legal obligations. There must be rights, duties. Legal obligations must be there. There must be an intention to create legal obligation. Intention should be there to create a legal obligation on the other party. Legal obligation in the sense that now A is giving goods for a consideration. It's a legal obligation. B has to pay 10,000. A has to pass the goods. In case of agreement regulating business relations, it is assumed that the parties intend legal consequences. This line is telling that when there are agreements which are regulating business relations, it is assumed, generally we assume that the parties intended legal consequences, legal consequences are always intended, that if something happens, we will lead the dispute by this or that. See, now comes the basics of a contract and important definitions under Contract Act 1872. Talking about the important definitions and what are the essentials of a valid contract. See, the Indian Contract Act 1872 defines contract as an agreement between two or more parties for buying, selling of goods or services for a valid considerations. So, contract, what is contract? As I already told you, contract is an agreement between two or more parties for buying, selling of goods or services for a valid consideration. Okay, so if I want to say that, I can say that contract is equal to agreement plus enforceability plus lawful consideration. If all these things are there, it will be called as a contract. Now the essentials to a valid contract. There are some essential conditions to a valid contract. There are 6 essential conditions to a valid contract. This is important. All these conditions you have to remember. If something comes, it cannot, as is a MCQ paper, it cannot come as it is, but it can be based, some MCQ questions can be based out of it. So you guys listen to it. There are in the forward, if we'll go into the chapter in detail, there will be explanation to it. Now here they have just given the what all are the elements of a contract, important elements of a contract. An offer and acceptance have to be made. So now what is an offer, what is acceptance, I'll be dealing it with in the session, in the upcoming session. So now offer and acceptance have to be made. By this term, it means that there should be an offer to be made by one party and the same offer should be accepted by the other party. This is the main element of a contract. As we all know, if I am saying to someone that I am making an offer to B that I want to sell my goods to you, so there is an offer to be made by me and the same offer should be accepted by B. Then only it will turn into a contract. There should be a lawful consideration. So lawful consideration means the consideration is not against the law. It is it is within the principles of law. The consideration should be not like that. If I am selling the goods to B, I am saying that okay, we'll enter into a contract. Okay, we'll loot one bank. We'll loot the bank, and out of that, whatever amount we'll get from the bank, I'll give you. This is an unlawful consideration. For a contract to be entered into, the consideration should be lawful. That means I am saying that this the amount of these goods is 10,000. okay, I want to sell it to you. If you want to buy it, give your acceptance. Okay, the person has given the acceptance. Now he'll pay me 10,000. I will get the goods. This is a lawful consideration. Consideration is not bad in the eyes of law. It is proper consideration. That's all. There should be free consent between the parties to a contract. The parties to a contract, suppose A and B. What is happening? Suppose A and B. These are two people. They are entering into a contract. The consent means the permission. The consent, they should be entering into a contract voluntarily. There should be no force. There should be free consent between the parties to contract. So now if suppose B want to enter into a contract with A, now A is not ready, but now B is forcing him to enter into a contract. That should not be there. If that is there, that contract can be considered as voidable contracts. I'll dealing with the void contracts in the coming chapters. So now here what this condition is, the consent should be free. Party, if he wants to enter, then only he should enter into. Otherwise there should be no force, no undue influence, no nothing. The object of the agreement should be lawful. The object of the agreement. So what is for what object you are entering into a contract? That should be lawful. That should be not against the law. As I told you that now two persons are entering into a contract to loot a bank. That is an unlawful contract. That is against the law. That something you are doing which is against the laws, which have a punishment, which have a proper punishment for the laws in the laws. That is against the law. That purpose becomes unlawful. So you cannot enter into a contract with someone for the unlawful purpose, for stealing of money. Two people are entering into a contract. Okay, we'll steal the money. We'll enter into the house of one person and we'll take everything, gold, cash, everything. That is unlawful purpose. So if two persons are entering into a contract for an unlawful purpose, that will not be considered as a contract. Understood? Okay, sir. Parties must be competent to contract. So parties must be competent. Competent means the age of the parties should be 18 or 18 plus. That means majority. The person should be major. The person entering into a contract should be a major person. It should not be a minor. If he is a minor, there must be a guardian assigned to it. Only persons who are major can enter into a contract, and they should be competent. Competent even means a person should be of sound mind. He should not be a person who is of unsound mind, who does not know anything, who is not able to know the terms of contract, all these things. He should be a person of a sound mind who can understand the decision and who can take rational decision whether to enter into a contract or whether not to enter into a contract. Simple. So now section 2A defines proposal or offer. So section 2A defines proposal and offer. Okay. Now if I'll tell you one thing is that when one person signifies to another his willingness to do or abstain from doing anything or obtaining the assent of that other to such act or subsistence, he is said to make a proposal. So what is proposal is, see here X, two persons are there, X and Y. Okay. X and Y. Now X, he wants to sell some goods to Y. Now, according to section 2A of the Indian Contract Act, it talks about proposal or offer. It is one and the same thing, proposal and offer. So now what is an offer? Where X is telling to Y that I want to sell goods worth rupees 10,000. It is an offer to be made by X to Y. The offer has been made. So according to the definition of offer, if one person is offering or signifies, he is telling his willingness. Now here what he is telling, he is giving his signifies, he wants to sell goods. So there is a willingness on part of X that he wants to sell goods to Y. Now Y, what happens is, even if suppose X and Y, they can enter into a contract, that contract also to abstain from doing something. To abstain from doing something means whether X is telling to Y that you should not buy goods from Z. X and Y entering into a contract where X, his assertion, X willingness is telling that you should buy goods from only from me and you should not buy goods from Z. That is also a contract, because here he is signifying his willingness. He is telling to Y that you should buy goods from me and you should not buy goods from someone else. That is in willingness of X. Now only we are reading the offer now. So this will be termed as offer, where one party gives his willingness or where one party gives his willingness to do something or not to do something to other party. That is called as offer. So here offer is made by X to Y to sell goods worth rupees 10,000. So this is an offer made by X. Okay. Now acceptance or promise. Section 2b talks about acceptance or promise. When the person to whom the proposal is made signifies his assent thereto, the proposal is said to be accepted. A proposal when accepted becomes a promise. Very nice. See, now X has made an offer. Now here Y has accepted the offer. Y accepted the offer or the proposal made by X. Y has given his assent. That means an offer when accepted, it becomes a promise. It has become a promise on the part of Y. Now he has given his assent. Now he cannot go back. So it says that offer when accepted is equal to, here you can write acceptance. Okay. When there is offer made by one party and that same offer is accepted by the other party, it will be called as promise. Understood? Okay. Promiser and promisee. Who is the promiser? Who is the promisee? The person making the proposal is the promiser. Now here X will be called as promiser, because the person making the proposal, he has made the offer, and the person accepting the proposal is called the promisee. Y will be called as promisee and X will be called as promiser. Section 2d, consideration. When at the desire of the promiser, the promisee or any other person has done or abstained from doing, or does or abstain from doing, or promises to do or abstain from doing something, such act or abstinence or promise is called consideration for the promise. Consideration is what? Amount. See, what is consideration is this 10,000. X is selling goods, amount is 10,000. Y is accepting, okay, I'll pay 10,000, I'll get the goods. That is consideration. So it is saying that consideration under section 2D is when at the desire of the promiser, the person who is promising, this his desire is, no, he told that I'll buy goods, I'll sell goods in 10,000. On his desire, other person is accepting the same consideration amount, it is consideration. Very simple, nothing as such. And section 2E talks about agreement. Every promise and every set of promises forming the consideration for such each other is an agreement. Promise, if there is some promise and there is an consideration for it, it will be automatically called as agreement, and agreement is equal to offer plus acceptance. What is a part of two elements of agreement is there should be an offer, there should be an acceptance. And what are the essentials of a contract? Agreement plus enforceability by law. Understood? Agreement, there should be an agreement, there should be enforceability by law. Okay, I think till this much it is very clear to you. These all things should be remembered. So this is the conclusion of whatever we have studied till now. Agreement is equal to offer plus acceptance. Offer we know, offer is in 2A, acceptance is in 2B. Contract, agreement, even 2D we have studied consideration. All these sections you have to remember. Who is the promiser, who is the promisee? These all things are very easy. If you will read once, you will get to know. Contract is agreement plus enforceability by law. It should be enforceable by law. Okay. Section 2F, it talks about reciprocal promises. Section 2F talks about reciprocal promises. Promises which form the consideration or part of the consideration for each others are called reciprocal promises. Reciprocal promises require both the parties of the agreement to do something. Reciprocal promises are such promises where promises are form the part of consideration for each others are called as reciprocal promises. See, if A is telling that I'll do this, that is I'll do this for B, and same on the other hand B is also telling that I will do this thing for A, it is a reciprocal promise. They both are promising on their other part for each other. Section 2G is void agreement. What is void agreement? Agreement not enforceable by law is said to be void. Any agreement which is against the provisions of law, which is not considered in the law, is a void agreement. Void means anything. It can be anything. It can be made by a force, undue influence. It is made under a position of distress. All these things. If you are forcing one person to enter into a contract and force, undue influence, force is against the provisions of law, that means that contract is a void contract. If now today I am telling someone that please enter into a contract with me for this particular thing, and I am continuously forcing that person to enter into a contract, and I took his or her signature by undue influence or by force or by anything, by misrepresentation, that means all those contracts are void contracts. Section 2H, contract. An agreement enforceable by law is a contract. Any agreement which is enforceable by law is a contract. Voidable contract, an agreement which is enforceable by law at the option of one or more of the parties thereto, but not at the option of the other or others, is a voidable contract. The contract will be void if the party having the option do not make it valid. For this voidable contract we will be studying in the next chapters also, but for now to explain it to you guys, see, voidable contracts are those contracts which can be void or can be made into a particular contract, but it is at the option of the parties. See, suppose there is a contract between A and B where A wants to sell something to B, okay, and B did not want to buy it. Later on, he came to know that A has forced B to buy a particular thing at a particular price. Now, when B will get to know this, that this all happened, now the contract is at the stage of voidable. It can either become a contract or it can either be void. Now the ratification part, now the ratification is in hands of the B. Either B will ratify the contract, yes, it's okay, I have entered into a contract voluntarily, it is not by force, it is not by undue influence, it is not by misrepresentation. This needs to be ratified by the party on whom the condition is there. It is written that though at the option of one or more of the parties there too. It is in the hand, it is in the option of one of the parties, and but not at the option of the other. So it is not within the option of the other. A does not have any power to ratify it because the evidence is on him that he has forced B. So A cannot ratify it. It is on the B who has to ratify the contract. Section 2J, it talks about void contract. Section 2J, it talks about void contracts. A contract where there is unlawful purpose which ceases to be enforceable by law becomes void when it ceases to be enforceable. There is which is unenforceable, it is a void contract. Simple. Then essential elements of a valid contract. We have studied essential elements. Agreement. There must be an agreement between the parties. In order to constitute a contract, there must be an agreement in first place. For agreement, for every contract, if we want to enter into a lawful contract, first there should be an agreement in which promise is to be made. An agreement in turn is composed of two elements, offer and acceptance. When an agreement is made, offer will be made, acceptance will be given by the party, so it will be called as agreement. Thus, there must be at least two parties, one making the offer and another accepting it. Two parties should be there, one is making the offer, other party is accepting it. The terms of offer must be definite and the acceptance must be absolute and unconditional. Suppose if A is making an offer to B, that offer which is being made by A, that should be clear offer and that should be definite offer. It should be for a particular thing. The offer should not be confusing, it should not be unclear, it should be unambiguous. So the offer must be definite and the acceptance which is given by the other party should be absolute. It should not be acceptance like, okay, I have accepted your offer, but in return I want this, I have a condition prior to it. No. Acceptance should be definitive, should be unconditional and absolute. It should be unconditional. There should be no conditions attached to the acceptance. That is very clear. Free consent. The agreement should be entered between the parties is a free consent. All contract need to be voluntary. If the parties are entering into a contract, it should be on a voluntary basis. There should be no force. Section 14 of the Indian Contract Act 1872 illustrates that consent is said to be free. Consent is said to be free when it is not caused by coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation or mistake. If consent is not free, then no valid contracts come into existence. This will be discussed in detail subsequently. We will be studying this in chapters, but for now, free consent means that consent is said to be free when? Consent is said to be free when it is not caused by coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation. When some other party is signing on behalf of that party, that is misrepresentation, coercion, by fraud, by undue influence. If consent is not caused by all these things, it will be called as valid consent. But if there is a coercion, there is a use of force, there is a misrepresentation, then it will be not be called as a free consent, then it will be a invalid consent. Okay, next comes is lawful consideration. What is lawful consideration? The agreement must be supported by a lawful consideration. The agreement must be supported by a lawful consideration. Consideration means something in return. Now, if A is selling goods to B, A is selling goods to B of rupees 10,000. So now, if when A is giving goods, B is also paying consideration, no? Something in return. Something in return may be an act or abstinence. Something in return can be also an act or can also be an abstinence. Abstinence means I'll not do this. But it must be real and lawful. It must be real and lawful. This will be discussed in detail subsequently. So lawful consideration also we will be touching upon in our subsequent chapters. Okay. Parties are competent. Parties are competent in major. Parties should be competent to content. A person should be of sound mind, and he should be in a position to enter into a contract. He should be a major. He should not be a minor. All these things are covered in this. He should be of 18 years of age, sound mind, not disqualified from contracting by any law. All these things. Next comes the legality of object. Legality of object means there must be legality of object and consideration, failing which will not be a valid contract. If the object is not, legality is not there. If an object is there in a contract and that object is not legal, then it will not be a valid contract. The contract should not violate the provisions of any other laws and regulations of the country. Any contract which is violating any other laws and which is violating any other regulations of the country, that will be considered as invalid object. Legal relationship, the parties must be enter into a legal relationship. If A and B are entering into it, there is a legal relationship between them. It is not like a person is doing a contract with his wife. No, that will not be a valid contract, because see, a husband promising his wife to buy her a necklace on occasion of her birthday is not a contract. There is no legal relationship between them. So that is not a valid contract. Agreements not expressly declared to be void. Agreements which are not expressly declared to be void. Agreement should, if an agreement is to be called as a contract, it will only be called as a contract where that agreement is not called as expressly void. The agreement not expressly declared void or illegal by law, this will be discussed in detail subsequently. We will read about this. So agreement should not be expressly declared as void to be called as a contract. Certain consensus at a meeting of minds. Meeting of minds should be there. I already told you, both the person should think of a single common subject. No party should be thinking about, if one party is thinking, okay, this is the subject, other party is thinking this is the subject. No, that doesn't work here. There should be consensus ad idem. There should be proper meeting of minds. Next comes certain and capable of performance. See, Mr. Y agrees to sell Mr. V some toys. Mr. Y is agreeing to sell Mr. V some toys. The type, quality, value, etc. are not discussed. The agreement cannot be enforced as terms are uncertain. If a person is entering into a contract, the party making the offer should give all the details priorly, and the details should be given by the other party should be certain. That if, see, Y agrees to sell Mr. V some toys. If Y is agreeing to sell toys, he should give all the description of all the toys. No, how many toys are to be sold? What is the description of the toys? What kind of toys are this? What is the material used in the making of toys? What is the consideration? All these things should be there. Offer must be certain. Legal formalities. Where nature of agreement is such that it requires compliance with certain formalities, such requirement should be fulfilled. All the legal formalities attaching contract should be fulfilled. See, some contracts, it is seen that there are some contracts where it is written that stamp duty is essential. So a stamp duty, it is a legal formality that needs to be done. If a stamp duty is not on the contract, that means it is a void contract. It is not a valid contract. That's all. This point only says about this. Okay. Next we have come on to types of contract. types of contract. One second. Yeah. So talking about types of contract. Okay. There are various type of contract. Now on the basis of enforceability, if we see the contract on the basis of enforceability, there are 6 type of contracts. Valid contracts. Valid contracts are what contracts? A entering into a contract by B for sale of a car of rupees 10 lakhs. B is ready to accept the offer, is ready to pay the money, lawful consideration is there. It is a valid contract. An agreement enforceable by law is a valid contract which is enforceable by law. Agreement which is enforceable by law will be called as a valid contract. In other words, it satisfies all the requirements of a valid contract as laid down in section 10. If an agreement is satisfying all the requirements of a valid contract, the requirements which are given in section 10, it will be called as a valid contract. If any of the essential requirements is missing, it will become a void contract. If any of the essential requirements are missing, it will become void. All the essential conditions should be there in the contract. Void agreement are which agreements? Which are against the lawful purpose, which are unenforceable, which are not unenforceable in the court of law. An agreement not enforceable by law is said to be void. A void agreement has no legal consequences. A void agreement cannot give rise to legal liabilities because it is a void agreement. There cannot be any legal consequences because the purpose for which you entered the contract is unlawful, or it is unenforceable, so it should not give rise to legal obligations also. No. Voidable contract. An agreement which is enforceable at the option of one or more parties thereto, but not at the option of the other is a voidable contract. So voidable contract is what contract? Which is at the option of one or more parties thereto. See, I'll explain you. See, A and B entered into contract. Okay, now A entered into a contract for sale of goods worth rupees 10,000 to B. Now B has not given his assent. B has not given his assent, but A, by use of force, took the consent. Took the consent from B. Now this contract, whether, the question is whether this is the question in our, whether this is a valid contract or not. Now, if B ratifies that consent has been, what is this happening? Consent has been taken by force or if B is ratifying, now B has to ratifies. All the power is in the hands of B. If B tells that yes, A has forced me to enter into a contract, then at that time only this will be a void contract. Void. Whereas on the other hand, if B is saying that no, I had voluntarily entered into a contract and there was no force or coercion or undue influence on me, then now B is ratifying the contract here and it will be as a valid contract. So all the power is in the hand of B. B has to ratify. B has to ratify the same. Understood? I think you guys have understood. It is easy, nothing to worry. Void contract. Void contract are contracts which ceases to be enforceable by law, becomes void when it ceases to be enforceable. Void agreements and void contracts are different. A void agreement is different, a void contract is different. Void agreement is void ab initio, but void contract is a valid contract at the beginning but subsequently becomes void when it ceases to be. See, what is this term is telling is, void agreement is void ab initio. If an agreement is called as void, it is void from the starting. Void ab initio means from the starts. From the start it is void. But if a void contract, if we talk about void contract, in the starting it can be valid, but later on when we get to know that it has been, the consent has been obtained by undue influence or the party is a minor party, later on it will become a void, but starting it is a valid. No, that is the main question here. Unenforceable contracts. These are the contracts which cannot be enforced in a court of law because some technical defects. These contracts become fully enforceable if the technical defects are removed. These are unenforceable contracts because these contracts have some technical defects in it. That is the reason they are unenforceable. The technical defects have to be removed. After that they will be enforceable. That's all. Illegal contracts. What are illegal contracts? An illegal agreement is destitute of any legal effect from the very beginning. An illegal agreement is the destitute of a legal effect. Anything which is done for the illegal means, for the illegal purpose, that is illegal contract. Now comes the based on method of formation. If we talk about based on method of formation, formal contracts. The term is usually found in English laws. Validity of these contracts depends upon their form. They are valid even if they lack consideration. These are the contracts, if your question comes in a paper, that which are the contracts even if it lacks consideration, they are still valid, that are formal contracts. Formal contracts are contracts whose validity depends upon their form and they are still to be valid even if they lack consideration. These contracts are of two types. Formal contracts are of two types: contract under seal and contract of records. So contract under seal and contract of records. So what is contract under seal? Is in writing and signed by the parties to them. A seal is there. If A and B are entering into a contract, a seal will be there at the end of the contract, that which is called as a formal contract between the parties. Even if consideration is not there, it will be for a particular purpose and seal must be present on it. And contract of records includes the court judgments, recognizance, obligations, such case arise out of judgment not in the contract. And even it can be a contract of records. Contract of record means it can be a court judgment of a court. And now you guys think yourself that if a court is giving the judgment, is there any consideration should be attached to it? No. That is why it is written that these formal contracts will hold good even if they are made without consideration. One is they can made under a seal. Under a seal means they are signed under seal. There will be signature of the parties and there will be a seal under it. Next is there can be contract of records. It can be government records, any other records. Simple contract means all contract other than the formal are called simple contracts. Easy. Next is based on extent of performance. Based on extent of performance. executed contracts. An executed contract is one which has been completely completed by both the parties. See, what is executed contracts? A entered into a contract with B, where A has told A has given the offer to sell the goods to B for rupees 10,000. A has given the offer, B has accepted the offer, B has paid the amount of 10,000, A has given the goods. It has been completely executed between both the parties, A and B. They both have done their obligation. A has to pass the goods to the B. He has the obligation to sell the goods. Whereas, what was the obligation of B in this case? B has to pay the money. It has been completely completed between the parties. That is executed contract. It has been executed. But what is executory contract? Is a contract which is wholly unperformed. It has not finished yet. A part of it is still in force. If one party has performed his part of obligation, but the other party has not yet completed his obligation on the contract still remains executory contract. So what is executory contract? Is where now A has given the goods. Contract between A and B was for the sale of goods of rupees 10,000. Now A has sold the goods, he has sent the goods to B, and B has received the goods. Now what is the obligation of B here? B has to pay amount of rupees 10,000 to A, but that has not done yet. That is still be called as an executory contract. It is not executed fully. All the conditions are not performed yet. Still B has to pay money. The time B pays the money and the money being received by A, it will be called as executed contract. As simple as that. Based on obligation. So, okay, if I talk about based on obligation, it can be unilateral contract. There is an obligation on the part of only one party, where the obligation is only on the part of one party. Only one party, either A or B, has to do some obligation. Bilateral, where both A and B has to perform some obligation. Multilateral means where more than two parties are involved. Suppose X, Y and Z are involved, where X has to do certain obligation in relation to Y and Y has to do some relation in relation to Z. So this is a example of multilateral contract. On the basis of mode of creation, if we talk about on the basis of mode of creation, express contract. Express contract means where one party is showing his willingness to enter into contract by a writing or by oral or by mail, anything. Proposal or acceptance of any promise is made in words, the promise is said to be expressed. If it is made in the words, therefore the contract entered into between the parties by words spoken or written are known as express contracts. So if a party is entering into the other party with the words orally or in a writing, that is express contract. But there is something called as implied or inferred contract. What is implied contract? As per section 9, insofar such proposal or acceptance is made otherwise than in words. For implied contract, the offer and the acceptance is not made in words, otherwise than in words. The promise is said to be implied. The promise is said to be implied. It is only by the conduct. You guys have to note one thing here. Implied contract is by the conduct of the parties. Implied contract is by the conduct of the parties. Thus the contracts which are made by an act or conduct of the parties and not by words are termed an implied contract. So if suppose whether A and B had not entered into an oral contract or not written contract, but A is doing something which, because of his nature, his activity, his action, he is doing something that is automatically formed into a contract, that is called as implied contract. Suppose I'll give you one example. You guys are going to watch a cricket match. So you guys have bought a ticket and you guys are going in for a cricket match. Now the time you bought the ticket and the time you have entered into the stadium to watch the match, now there is an risk of you sitting there and a ball comes to you and hit you. So now you can't say that I was not given my acceptance to this thing. that if a ball is hitting me, I have not given consent, but it is an implied consent on your part. How? It can be implied in such a way that the time you bought the ticket and the time you bought the ticket, you have given the consent to their terms and conditions, that if still the ball has hit you, still it cannot be considered as you cannot claim remedy under the contract act. That is there. So if implied contract can be any contract which is by the conduct of the parties, which is by the action of the parties, which is not orally or in writing, otherwise than orally or in writing, that is by the conduct. E-contract. This is a kind of contract formed in the course of e-commerce by interaction of two or more persons competent to contract using electronic means. Any contracts which we are entering into day-to-day life, where we are agreeing into the terms and conditions, we click whenever I think you guys have seen so many times, whenever we are seeing into some disclaimers videos, there is written I agree. You clicking on I agree, that are e-contracts. That can be also of two kinds: click wrap agreements and shrink wrap agreements. That is also a differentiation of that. That is not into your syllabus, but for your knowledge I was telling that e-contract or something where you click I agree, disclaimer types of things are coming now. Next comes is offer and acceptance. What is offer? What is acceptance? Meaning and definition of offer. For an agreement to come into force, there should be definitive offer by one party and unqualified acceptance by the party whom the offer is made. Offer should be made by one party, offer should be clear, and the acceptance should be made by the other party. Even the acceptance should be unconditional and absolute. Thus, an offer is an expression of willingness to a contract on certain terms made with the intention that it shall become binding as soon as it is accepted by the person to whom it is addressed. The person to whom it is addressed, that is the offeree. Offer is made by one person, addressed to the other person. The person to whom the offer is addressed is called as offeree. Okay. So now the term proposal, section 2A, we have already studied, used in the Indian Contract Act is like the term offer which used in English laws. So the term proposal used in the Indian Contract Act is like the term offer used in English laws. In the Indian Contract Act we use the term proposal, but if we talk about the English laws, they say it as offer. So offer and this both proposal, it is the same thing. It's just that under the Indian laws we called it as proposal, and under the English laws we called it as offer. Okay. So next is the person making proposal or offer is called the promiser or offerer. Suppose A is making an offer to B. Now A is called as the promiser or an offerer. And the person to whom offer is made, is, if an offer is made to B, who is called as an offeree, and the person accepting the offer is called as the promisee or acceptor, and the person who will accept the order, that person will be called as acceptor or the promisee. That's all. Coming on types of offer, express and implied offer. Express offer is what offer? Which is made by writing orally between the parties. What is implied offer? Offer which can be seen, can be inferred by the conduct of a party, conduct of any of one of the party. An offer will be made either by words or by conduct. An offer which is made by words is called express offer, and the one which is inferred from the conduct of the person, which is inferred from the conduct of the person or the circumstances of the case, is called as an implied offer. So now here will be an example of an implied offer. See, an example of implied offer is Calcutta State Transport Corporation on different routes to carry passengers at the scheduled tariff rates. So this is one transport corporation. They used to carry passengers on different routes at their tariff rates. This is a case of implied offer by this corporation, and once a person board in the bus, he or she is said to have accepted the offer by his conduct. So now this corporation, they are giving the service of bus service to different persons and different routes at a tariff rate. Now suppose a person named A, he has entered into bus. Now now what is his conduct? His conduct was he entered into the bus. Now it means that he automatically entered into a contract that he will pay the bus for the services at a scheduled tariff rate. That is the implied offer. There is no oral agreement or no written agreement between the bus corporation owner or the person A. But still, why his conduct? By his conduct means the act he has done. The act he has done in the sense is he entered into the bus. The time he entered into the bus, he has given his consent that okay, I will pay the appropriate money because I am taking this particular service for this particular route. I think this is very clear now. You'll guys not be having any confusion or doubts in express offer or implied offer, because it is something technical, because students sometimes they'll not able to recall it, because express offer is very simple. Any offer which is in writing or it is in oral communication between two persons, it is an express offer. But implied is something which needs to be understand. Implied is something which is only by the conduct of the parties. Understood? Offer and invitation to offer. So what is offer and invitation to offer? In the case of invitation to offer, the person sending out invitation does not make an offer but only invites the other parties to make an offer. In case of invitation to offer, the person sending out invitation does not make an offer but only invites the other parties to make an offer. So offer is something which you guys know under section 2A of the Indian Contractors. Any willingness by a party, by one person to the other person for entering into a contract is an offer. But invitation to offer is not considered as an offer, because invitation to offer is not to offer in actual. It is only an invitation to offer. That person is not making an offer. He is telling, I am making an invitation to offer, you will come and then we'll negotiate. An advertisement for sale of goods by auction. See, a person is putting an advertisement in the newspaper that for sale of goods by auction. I will sell the goods by auction. That is what is this? Invitation to offer. He is inviting candidates. The candidates will come and then they'll submit their bids and then the auction will happen. Quotations, catalog of prices, display of goods at showroom. When we go to showrooms and all, it will be you guys have seen that display of goods, buy one get one, buy two get 50% off. These all are invitation to offer. These all will be agreed, accepted once when you actually go into the showroom and you will buy it. These are invitation to offer. This is not an offer. Invitation to offer. Offer is certain. An offer should be certain. Offer should tell, this is the service to be given, this is the obligation on my part, I will receive this much amount and this is the offer. But invitation to offer is something else. Invitation to offer is something where you are giving an offer, where you are inviting the other person to give an offer. He will give you an offer and then contract will be came into picture with price tags as invitation to the offer rather than offer. The main difference between an offer and invitation to offer is that in the case the former, there should be expression of willingness to do or abstain from doing with a view to obtaining the assent of the other party. In an offer, what is there? Willingness to do something or abstaining from to do something with the permission of the other party. But it is not the same in the case of invitation to offer, because in the later one, the party without expressing his final willingness, because the person who is giving his invitation to offer, he is not expressing his willingness. He is only proposing certain terms on which he is willing to negotiate. He does not make any offer. He only invites the other party to make an offer. He is inviting other party to make an offer. He has not made any offer yet. The offer has to be made. The person who responds to the invitation to offer makes the offer which may or may not be accepted by the person inviting the offer. Invitation to offer also occurs, for instance, when tenders are invited. Invitation to offers will occur when tenders are invited, when government give tenders. So invitation to offer will come into picture. Different tenders, people will tell, okay, we will complete this project in this much money, we will complete in this much money. So these are invitation to offers. Government has not given any willingness, they have not confirmed it, only invitation they had given. Advertisement for tender is merely an invitation to offer. If this comes advertisement to tender, what is this? Offer or invitation to offer? It is an invitation to offer. The tender constitutes the offer which can be accepted or rejected. Simply putting goods up for auction, catalog of goods or prospectus of a company, invitation for jobs, invitation for public subscription are accepted merely invitation and not an offer. These all things, if you are putting a prospectus of a company so that other people can buy your securities, it is an invitation to offer. If you are inviting people for jobs, that is invitation to offer. You are not offered a job yet. The person will come, he will tell the other person who will come for your offer, he will, now you people both have to negotiate. Now suppose I am putting a job that I need a teacher. I just have put an invitation or I have posted on Instagram that one teacher required only this much. Now I have given an invitation. This is not an offer, because offer should contain clear terms. Now that person replied. Suppose some person with the name A has replied me saying that, okay, I want to accept your offer. What are the terms of offer? Okay, we'll talk now. Now the other person is telling me, okay, this is something I want, this all things I know, I was teaching from last 10 years, I'm expecting salary of this much, that much. Now when both the parties will agreed, acceptance will be there, offer will be there, that will comes into an agreement. After agreement, it should be for a lawful consideration, there should be a lawful purpose, it should be enforceable, it should become a contract. That is how it works. I think it is very clear. And now offer can be specific or general. Specific offer is what offer? Which is for a specific goods or services. An offer is said to be specific when it is to be addressed to a definite person or persons. An offer is said to be specific when it is addressed to a definite person. It is made to a set of people which are defined in the offer. Such offer can be accepted only by the person or persons to whom it is made. Suppose an offer is made by A to B and C. Okay. Now this is the offer which can only be made to B and C. It is called as special offer. Special offer. Now somebody else, suppose X and Y have come to A that we want to accept this offer. Now they cannot accept, because this offer is a special offer and it is made only to B and C. Now B and C can only has the power to accept the offer. Now X and Y cannot come and say that we want to accept this offer that you have made. No, if an offer is made specifically to certain person, one person or a set of persons or more than one person, then acceptance should also become from the same person. It should not be that the acceptance can come from X and Y. A general offer is something which is addressed to public in large. A general offer is something, see, offer is made by A that this is the offer, certain offer. Now anyone can come, it is a general offer, either B, C, D, E, F, anyone. Whoever wants to accept the offer can come and tell their willingness to accept the offer. Understood? So these are the legal rules regarding offer. These are certain legal rules regarding the offer. An offer to be valid must comply with the following rules. An offer to be valid must comply with the following rules. These are the following rules with which an offer to be complied with. Offer may be expressed or implied. Offer may be expressed or implied, which means that an offer may be expressed offer or may be implied, that the conduct of the parties. Express offer is what? Made by word spoken or written. Implied offer is what? Which is not spoken or written, it is by the conduct of the parties. Offer should be either expressed or implied. Something should be there, no? Offer may be specific or general. It should be either specific offer, it should be general offer. If it is specific offer, it is made to a specific person. It is general offer, it should be made to public at large. That's all. Offer must give rise to legal obligation. There must be a legal obligation which an offer gives rise to. Legal obligation means there should be an obligation in the offer which is legally enforceable. If one person has not committed his obligation, then other person can go to court and file a suit. Terms of an offer must be definite and certain. The terms of offer, it should be certain that if a person A is making an offer, he should tell clearly that this is the offer. The offer is available till this date and everything else, all the other details. Offer must be distinguished from an invitation to offer. It should be properly mentioned that it is an offer and not an invitation to offer. There must be proper difference between an offer and invitation to offer. See, an offer must be distinguished from an invitation to offer. The shopkeepers generally display their goods in showcases with price tags. The shopkeepers in such cases is not making an offer so that you can accept it. That is not an offer, that is an invitation to offer. If a shopkeeper is keeping something on his shop with a price tag on it, that is not an offer, that is an invitation to offer. He is on the other hand inviting you to make an offer which he may or may not accept. Now by that he is inviting you. Okay, you come, you tell what price you will give for this. After that it is on him whether to accept it or not. Thus you cannot compel a shopkeeper to sell the good displayed in the showcase at the marked price. You cannot compel him that now you have marked it at this price, you have to sell it at this price only. No, it is an invitation to offer, it is not an offer. However, if there is a specific law to sell goods and marked price, then the seller will have to sell at marked prices. For example, during national emergency, essential commodities have to be sold at marked prices. During national emergency, there are certain things which government release that this has to be sold in this price only. That is something else. That is only in the case of exception. That is a national emergency. Offer must be communicated. Offer should be communicated to the other party. No, if offer is not communicated, then how the acceptance will be there? A person should communicate the offer, that this offer, I am making one offer. That offer should be communicated. So the offer must be communicated. An offer must be communicated to the other person to whom it is made. A person can accept the offer only when he knew about it. How will the other person accept the offer before that? If he doesn't know about it, he will only accept the offer when he know about it. If he does not know it, he cannot accept it. Simple. Communication of special terms. All the special terms in the contract, all the special terms should be there in the offer. Special term of a contract must be communicated. Generally, such cases arise in respect of general offers, like tickets or receipts of depositing luggage at the railway station, or receipt for clothes given for dry cleaning. What are all the conditions attached to it should be clearly told. The special term must be brought in the customer notice either by drawing his attention to them specifically. Special term should be told to the customer by drawing the attention to the customer specifically on the topic, or by inferring that a man of ordinary prudence could find them exercising ordinary prudence. If a person of ordinary prudence means if a person is of some knowledge, like he is of a sound mind, he will get to know about it from his own knowledge, from his own sense of knowledge, then also the person attention can be drawn to the specific this thing. However, if the special conditions forming part of the offer are contained in a document which is delivered after the contract is complete, then the customer is not bound by them. See now, what is this telling is, this is important, it is saying that if the special conditions of an offer are mentioned in a document and that document is delivered after the contract is complete. See, suppose if a contract got completed and there was one special condition which was attached to that contract, but that special condition was written into a document and that document was received by the party after the completion of a contract, then that party who has received that document after the completion of the contract is not bound by that special condition. Simple. I guess you have understood. I'll explain it one more time. It says that suppose there is a contract between A and B where the contract is completed, but where A is the person who has given some special condition in the offer, but that offer condition in the offer, it was into one document, and B got that document. B has received the document after the completion of the contract. Now B will not be bound by that condition or that special condition. Offer must be made with a view to obtaining the consent of the other party or not to abstain from doing that. Offer should be made with to obtain the consent to do something or to obtain the consent not to do something. It should not be related to anything else. It should be only form part of either to obtain the consent or to obtain the consent for doing something or to obtain the consent to not to do something. Offer should not impose an unnecessary obligation to communicate non-acceptance. Offer should not impose an unnecessary obligation to communicate one's acceptance. Thus, an offerer cannot say that if acceptance is not communicated by Sunday next, the offer would be considered as accepted. Offer should not impose an unnecessarily obligation. It should not impose unnecessary obligation that if that offer has not accepted by this date, it should be considered accepted. No. Offer should mention that this is the offer, this is mentioned till this day. Whoever wants to ready for the offer, kindly come and give their acceptance. That's all. It should not that you cannot say that if an offer is not accepted by this day, it will get automatically accepted. No, it is not like that. Willingness should be there from the other party. Acceptance should be unconditional and unqualified. Offer to make an offer is not an offer. If someone is making an offer and that offer is made to subsequent to make one more offer, that is not an offer. Meaning and definition of acceptance. What is the meaning and definition of acceptance is? Now, acceptance, you know, section 2b defines acceptance, and an offer can be accepted by only the person for whom the offer is intended. Offer can be accepted by only the person to whom the offer is intended. An offer made to a particular person can only be accepted by him alone. If an offer is made to B, it should be accepted by B only. It cannot be accepted by C. On the other hand, an offer made to a class of persons can be accepted by any member of that class of persons. Suppose an offer is made to 10 persons, a class of persons. Now that offer can be accepted by any one of them. Any one of 10 out of 10, they can come and accept the offer. An offer made to the world at large can be accepted by any person whatsoever. Any person, general offer. General offer is an offer which is made to public at large, and anyone from the public at large, from the world, can come and accept it. What are the essentials of a valid acceptance? What are the essentials of a valid acceptance? The following are the essentials of a valid acceptance. They are: acceptance must be absolute and unqualified. Acceptance must be absolute and unqualified. It means that there should be no further, it should be without any conditions. Suppose it should not violate, acceptance must be absolute and unqualified means that there are no violations to the initial offer. There are no violations made to the initial offer. It says that absolute acceptance must be absolute. It should be for the whole offer. Acceptance should not be like, okay, this I am accepting, but this I am not accepting. No, it will not be considered as valid acceptance. Acceptance should be for the absolute offer, for whole of the offer, and it should be unqualified. Unqualified means that there should be no conditions attached to it. A person who is accepting the offer, he cannot say that I will accept the offer, but this is my condition. No, that will be a qualified acceptance. But for an acceptance to be a valid one, it should be unqualified and absolute. Next is acceptance must be communicated. Except if a person is accepting the offer, he should communicate it to the person who had made the offering. And one more thing is, silence cannot be construed as acceptance. A person has to inform to the other parties about his acceptance. If one person is keeping silent, he is not telling anything, that doesn't mean that he has accepted the offer. Silence cannot be construed as acceptance. Acceptance must be in a prescribed or reasonable mode. How acceptance should be there? It should be there in a prescribed or a reasonable mode. See, when a person is giving an offer, he will mention that any person who wanted to accept this particular offer should comply with it and should give his or her acceptance by this day, by this authority, by this mode. Okay. So when there is a particular mode of acceptance is given in the offer, acceptance should be made with the lieu of that only. It should not that some other mode was mentioned in the offer and acceptance is made by some other mode. No, acceptance should be made by the mode which is mentioned in the offer. It should be in a prescribed or reasonable mode. If the offer prescribes no mode of acceptance, if there is an mode of acceptance in the offer, it should be that. But if in some cases there is no mode of acceptance mentioned in the offer, the acceptance must be communicated according to some usual and reasonable mode. It should be some usual. It should be in writing or mail, whatsoever, but it should be in a usual mode. The usual mode of communication are by words spoken. It can be oral, it can be written by conduct or an impliedly, everything. Acceptance must be given with a reasonable time and before the offer lapses. How acceptance must be given? Acceptance must be given with a reasonable time. Acceptance should be given within a reasonable time. Suppose offer is telling that 10th is the last day to give the offer. After that 10th is the last day for the acceptance. Then in that case acceptance cannot be given after 10th. It should be within 10th acceptance must be given. It should be reasonable before the offer lapses, because the offer is lapsing on 10th. Now a person is giving his acceptance on 11th. The offer got lapsed. Now you can't give. Acceptance cannot precede an offer. Acceptance cannot precede an offer. There should be offer first, then only acceptance will come. Acceptance cannot come before offer. Acceptance cannot precede an offer. No. How can you accept something without being offered? First offer will come, then only acceptance will come. Acceptance must be given only by the person to whom the offer is made. Acceptance should be made by the person only to whom offer is made. If an offer is made to B, acceptance should be given by B only and only. Rejected offer can be accepted only on renewal. If an offer is rejected, that offer can be accepted only by the renewal. Renewal means to make a new offer. After that only it can be accepted. Rejected offer can be accepted only on renewal. Offer once rejected can't be accepted again unless a fresh offer is made. If one offer has been rejected, that same offer cannot be accepted. For that, a fresh offer has to be made. Revocation of acceptance. Under English law, acceptance is revocable. If under English law is the logic is that if a person has given his acceptance, he can still revoke it. Revoke means cancel. But under Indian law, acceptance is irrevocable. If you had given your acceptance, now you don't have the option to cancel or revoke it. The same point, it was there in the offer also. Acceptance to give an acceptance is not an acceptance. Any acceptance which is to give an acceptance will not be considered as an acceptance. Now, communication, acceptance and revocation of proposals. We'll see about it. So your first 2.1 will going to be finished in some other 10-15 minutes. Okay, we are at the last of the chapter. So the term communication can be explained as the process of sending or bringing any matter to the knowledge of the person to whom it is directed. Communication is what? Bringing any matter to one person to whom it is directed. If A has to know something, if B has to direct it to A, he has to communicate it to A, that's all. The process of sending or bringing to the notice may be by letters, fax, telegram, telephones, etc. So the process of sending or bringing to the notice maybe by letters, by fax, telegram, it can be by anything. Communication is a very important in case of contract, and it can be explained as below. See, communication is very important. If two persons will not communicate, how will they get to know that offer has been made? And if the offer has been made, how the other person will communicate the acceptance? The communication is the main principle. So when is communication complete in case of the following? So now with this we are seeing that when is the communication complete in offer? As per section 4, the communication of a proposal is complete when it comes to the knowledge of the person to whom it is made. Suppose X sends a proposal of selling his car to Y by letter, which was received by Y on 12. See, X made a proposal to Y to sell the car to Y, and he has sent the proposal by letter post. He has posted the letter. Now that letter has been received by Y on 12th, 12/10/21. Now on this day we will say that the communication of offer has been made to Y. Understood? Easy. Acceptance, when an acceptance is to be notified. As per para 2 of section 4, a communication of an acceptance is complete as against the proposer when it is put into course of transmission to him. When it is put into course of transmission to him so as to be out of the power of the acceptor. Now where, suppose in this case, if Y has accepted the offer and he has sent his communication by letter, his acceptance by letter to X, the time he sent it for the transmission, he has accepted the offer. But the time it will reach to X, the X will get to know about the acceptance. So that is the time period. See, communication of acceptance as against the promise or acceptor is complete when it comes to the knowledge of the proposer. In the instant case, communication of acceptance as against Y is complete on 18/10. Suppose communication of acceptance by Y is complete on 18/10. On 18/10, Y completed the offer when the letter of acceptance is received by X. On 18/10, on 18th, the letter of acceptance is received by X. So that is the date. Suppose in the example given above, Y accept the proposal by a letter sent by post on 15th. On 10th, see, on 12th, X has sent the letter. On 15th, Y has accepted and sent the letter back to X for his acceptance. In the instant case, the communication of acceptance against X is complete as soon as Y dispatches the letter to the out of his control. Communication will be completed when? As soon as when the Y dispatches the letter. If the Y dispatches the letter on 15th, communication of acceptance is complete against X on 15/10. Easy. Acceptance will be said to be completed when the party which has to accept the offer has given his acceptance and sent it for the transmission to the other party. Easy. Revocation. Revocation means cancellation, means taking back. Revocation can be both such offer, proposal as well as acceptance. Revocation can be made of offer, proposal and acceptance. The communication of a revocation is complete. Communication of a revocation is complete when who makes it, when it is put into a course of transmission to the person to whom it is made so as to out of the power of the person who makes it. A person, see, a person X is revoking it. He has made a letter communicating to Y. For him, on that day only, on which he made the letter for transmission to Y, for him it is revoked. And for Y, when it will be revoked, the time when it will be received by Y, it will take some days to reach it to Y, no? When it will be received by Y, and on that day it will be revoked. As against the person to whom it is made, when it comes to his knowledge. How will it come to his knowledge? Only when he will receive it. Suppose in the previous example, if X decide to revoke his proposal and send to ordinary letter to Y on 14/10, which is received by Y on 17th. X sent a letter on Y, it is received by Y on 17th. In the instant, revocation of offer is completed as against X on 14th and against Y on 17th. revocation is completed against X on 14th. 14 is the day when he has sent it, transmitted it to Y, and for Y the revocation got completed when it came into his knowledge. It has received that document. That is very easy. Now revocation of offer and acceptance, if we'll study. Revocation means taking back or withdrawal of offer or acceptance. A proposal may be revoked at any time before the communication or acceptance if it competes against the proposal but not afterwards. See, a proposal can be revoked any time before the communication. If a person has communicated his acceptance, after that he cannot revoke the offer. Before that he can revoke. See, A and B entered into a contract. A made the offer. A made the offer. B accepted it. Now B cannot revoke. Now B cannot revoke. Because why? He has made the acceptance. Acceptance is complete. If, see, he can, suppose B has given his acceptance by a letter. That letter has still not reached A. In between, if that letter has reached A, if B has given his acceptance and the acceptance letter has come into knowledge of A, afterwards he cannot revoke. But if that acceptance letter has not reached to A, in between, that letter is an in between of transmission. It has not reached to A now. As of now, he can still cancel. But once the letter comes into the knowledge of A, B cannot cancel the order, cancel the contract. An acceptance may be revoked at any time before the communication of the acceptance is complete against the acceptor but not afterwards. Same thing what I have told you. See, A proposes by a letter sent by post to sell his house to B. Now A is writing a letter to sell his house to B. B accepts the proposal by letter sent by post. B has accepted the offer. A may revoke his proposal at any time before at the moment when B posts his letter of acceptance. Now, what is the time when A can revoke the offer? When? Till the time B has not given an acceptance and that acceptance has not reached to A. Before that, A can cancel the offer, but not afterwards. B may revoke the acceptance at any time before or at the moment when the letter communicating it reaches A, but not afterward. Before the letter communicating it reaches A. Now the acceptance given by B, if it has reached to A, afterwards B cannot cancel. But it has not yet reached, it has not come into the knowledge of A as of now yet, B has the right to cancel it. Revocation. If we'll talk about revocation, section 6 of the Act provides the modes for revocation of an offer of acceptance. So these are the modes of revocation. How can an offer or acceptance be revoked? What are the modes? So this is the last thing. This is the last part. By the communication of notice of revocation by the proposal to the other party, the offer or may revoke his proposal at any time before the letter of acceptance is posted to him and not afterwards. Similarly, acceptance can be revoked at any time before the letter of So as you guys know, what is revocation? Cancelling any offer or acceptance. If one person wants to cancel the offer, or if an offer is made, the other person wants to revoke the acceptance. So as we already know, by the communication a person can propose to the other party, but that has to be made before the consent. It should be not made. But see, if a person wants to cancel the offer, he should cancel the offer before receiving of the acceptance, not afterwards receiving of the acceptance. Whereas a person who has made the acceptance, now he wants to revoke the acceptance, he has to cancel the acceptance before reaching it to the other person, before coming into the knowledge of other person. By the lapse of the time, any offer or acceptance can also be revoked by lapse of time. If there was particular time in the offer but that has not complied with by the acceptance, it got revoked automatically. And acceptance also, a person should accept this offer in a particular time, but that has not been done the offer become lapsed, and now the time got lapsed, and now revocation is there. By failure of acceptor to fulfill a condition precedent to acceptance. Now see, in the offer there was some condition to be fulfilled by the acceptor before accepting the offer, and now that condition has not been accepted by that condition has not been fulfilled by the acceptor. So in that case also the offer will get revoked automatically. By the death or insanity of the proposer. If the death or insanity of the comes to the knowledge of the acceptor before acceptance, where an offeree writes his acceptance but dies before posting, the offer will lapse. Posting of the letter. See, the person who has made the offer, he has died now, and that has come to the knowledge of the other party. See, suppose A and B entered into a contract where A has made the offer, but he has died. Now B got to know about this thing that A has died before giving the acceptance. Now the offer will be automatically revoked. And also, where an offeree writes his acceptance, where the other person, he writes his acceptance, he has given acceptance, but dies before posting. He has written it, but he dies before posting. The offer lapses, and posting of letter after his death will not create a contract. And any posting of letter after his death will not create a contract. If a counter offer is made, suppose there was an offer on which a counter offer is made, where the offer is accepted with some modification in terms of the offer, or with some other condition in not forming part of the such qualified exceptions amounts to counter offer. What is counter offer is, suppose A and B entered into a contract for sale of goods amounting to 10,000. Now there was a counter offer made by B, made by the other party, that if I will buy this, if I will buy these goods, I want you to send me some other goods at rate 5,000. This is the counter offer by B. This is generally an offer where a party is making an offer, but the party to whom the offer is made, suppose in this case B is the party to whom an offer is made, he is giving a counter offer, the other party is giving a counter offer. So that is there. See, if an offer not accepted according to prescribed or usual mode, if an offer is not accepted within the usual mode, however, the offer gives notice to the offeree within a reasonable time that the acceptance is not according to the prescribed or usual mode of acceptance. In the cases where there was a particular mode of acceptance of offer is given, but with that particular mode the offer is not been accepted, then also it can be revoked. But in certain cases a notice has to be given to the party that I had mentioned in my offer that the acceptance must be communicated by this particular mode, and whereas you have not communicated the acceptance by the particular mode, so kindly do the needful, in the sense that pass your acceptance in the particular or the prescribed or the usual mode. That is also there. An offer comes to an end if the law is changed so as to make the contract contemplated by the offer illegal or incapable of performance, where the object of the offer becomes illegal, where it is something that the law has been changed and now some new law has come into force, and the new law which came into force has made the subject of the previous contract illegal, then also it will get revoked. There is also this thing was there regarding waging. There was one second, only in revocation section 6 there is also offer is revoked when wagering contracts, it comes into picture when it talks about voidable and voidable agreements. So now what we'll do is, guys, today Now this much is enough for one session, I think. So we have covered everything in this chapter, essential elements of contract. To give a conclusion, we have covered what is offer, what is acceptance, what is a contract, what is an agreement, when can an agreement called as a contract, what is the definition of contract, under what sections the definition of contract comes, what are the essential elements of a contract, what are the essential elements of an agreement, how an offer is to be made, what are the rules for the offer, what is an acceptance, how an acceptance has to be made, what are the guiding principles to it. Then we have also studied about essential elements of a valid contract, types of contract, what are different types of contract, that was also there. After that, what is offer, what is acceptance, what are the types of offer, even legal rules, what are the rules regarding the offer, how the offer should be there, offer should be clear, it should give rise to legal obligation, it should be distinguished from invitation to offer, all these things we have completed. After that, acceptance must be absolute and unqualified, acceptance must be absolute and unqualified, okay. Then when is the communication complete in what is communication, and when is the communication complete in all the cases, offer, acceptance, revocation. I have told you this thing is very clear and very easy, and it is important also. It can come in your MCQ, so you have to rely upon it. Then comes revocation, is also important. Revocation talks about cancellation of offer or acceptance. Revocation can be made of offer also, and revocation can be made of acceptance as well. So section 6.5 talks about this, and section 6 talks about modes of revocation of offer or acceptance. These are the modes. That's all. So in the next session we'll be covering void and voidable agreements, and we'll see what all things we can cover. So for this session, yeah, for this session this much is enough, I guess. So okay guys, study, and I'll be meeting you in the next session. Bye bye, all the best, study well, and hope you guys are doing really well. And I hope even that whatever I had taught you, you guys have understood it. And even in the case of any confusions, any doubts, any queries, you can always write it to me. That is not a problem. So okay, we'll be meeting in the next session where we'll be talking about the subsequent chapters. Thank you.